When I first heard that Jon Jones was vacating the light heavyweight title, I thought what most thought. He doesn't want anything to do with having to fight Dominic Reyes again, or perhaps even Thiago Santos for that matter, which there'd be no shame in if that were the case. If Jones never fought another day in his life, he would still go down in history as one of, if not the greatest mixed martial artists in history. Jones's last 2 fights have not gone like most of the contests in his career have gone. There are people out there right now that'll argue that he lost both of them. I'm not ready to claim that, but I will say that that claim isn't absurd. It's not that I feel like Jones's skills aren't as sharp as they once were, or that Reyes or Santos had his number necessarily. I just think that after almost 10 years as the face of the division that was once considered the most stacked in this sport, that his time there is up. For the record, I don't necessarily think that jumping to heavyweight is going to solve all of his problems, but the more I think about him doing it, the more I love it. Jones has had an amazing career at light heavyweight, but it's become quite clear that the time for change is now. Things have become stagnant for him, and I always believe that the lack of high-profile fights played a part in the uninspired performances we've seen from him as of late. There really aren't any high-profile fights to be had at 205 for Jones. Any serious threats to his crown, he's already beaten. But it's a whole new world at heavyweight, and I'm optimistic that the fresh landscape and the new matchups are going to motivate Jones unlike anything at light heavyweight could possibly do. I really hope before he jumps into a championship title fight that he gets to take a 3-rounder against a contender or something. I realize that's probably an unpopular opinion, as this is the great Jon Jones we're talking about. He's either a 5-round main eventer or he's nothing, which I fully agree with. But while Jones certainly isn't getting any younger, by all accounts, and people forget this, he's still a young guy. At 33 years old, he is no spring chicken, but as we've seen over the years, the average prime for a heavyweight fighter tends to be significantly later than all other weight divisions. Over the years, we've seen a lot of seasoned heavyweights have a resurgence in their career in their mid to late 30s in the big man division. So I really don't see any need in rushing Jones into a title shot. In all likelihood, this will be his new home for the long haul, so let's get him in there for a 3-round fight first. I know everybody wants to see him against the biggest names possible, but man, I do not hate the idea of him against an Alistair Overeem or a Jairzinho Rosenstruck. I hope this idea at least gets some consideration. The window of opportunity in the sport is short for all fighters, but a part of me feels like Jon Jones has nothing but time when it comes to his integration into the heavyweight division. I don't imagine I'll get my wish, though. The fans are clamoring for Jones versus Stipe for the title, or Jones versus Ngannou, and I can't blame them. Jones's resume is actually far more impressive than he gets credit for. There's no question that he earned a title fight or a shot against the number 1 contender, even having never fought in the division before. All that being said, I feel like Jones versus Ngannou would cause a lot of excitement. A lot of good comes out of that fight being made. Ngannou would likely be under the biggest spotlight of his entire career, and Jones would hopefully get his due credit for stepping up for such a difficult and scary challenge. The stakes are incredibly high in that one. It would be one of those fights that the build-up would be a lot bigger than most are expecting it to be at this juncture. It was also recently announced that Brock Lesnar is now a free agent. And I can tell you right now, if I had a choice, I would pick Jon Jones versus Brock Lesnar over every other potential matchup out there. But I'm not about to get excited about that possibility. It's always the same thing with Brock. Whenever he's a free agent, there's a lot of hoopla around him in MMA, only for him to go back to wrestling. I'm not in touch with Lesnar, but I'd venture to guess you couldn't pay him enough to agree to fight Jones right now. I feel like Jones versus Stipe wouldn't generate the same kind of excitement as a fight versus Lesnar or Ngannou. I think this is the case because of both the stylistic matchup as well as the contrast between these two as individuals. It's certainly an added element of intrigue given the heavyweight title would be on the line, but I feel like it's wasteful to make this fight right from the jump. But whatever happens, a new division for Jones will present new challenges. The much needed fresh coat of paint is going to be a welcome change, not just for Jones, but for the fans as well. The whole new world at heavyweight is going to give him a much needed boost, something that in retrospect, he's been needing for quite some time now.